Tonight on the Austin Downbeat. Celebrating our 100th episode, we do a lyrical deep dive with the West Texas Exiles and UT psychology professor, Dr. Aaron Rochlen.
Welcome to the Austin Downbeat. I'm Kat, your host, and also welcome to my 100th episode. I have a special panel for you today. I have two of the West Texas Exiles. Yeah, let's hear it. 2/5 of the Exiles, and also Dr. Aaron Rochlen, a professor. And you might be wondering, why do I have a professor and two musicians on the stage? We're doing something a little bit different this time. And frankly, for me personally, it's very intriguing. I always said if I didn't do what I do, I would probably be a psychologist or a therapist. I love that stuff. And on another personal note, I think lyrics, music was really my first form of therapy as a kid. So this is all perfect, and I'm so happy that it's my 100th episode, and it just feels super special for me.
Thank you for having us. Thank you so much for having us.
I was just looking, and you guys were on my show, all five of you, a year ago. A little bit more than a year ago. Yeah. And so what has been happening?
What hasn't been happening? We've done so much in the past year. We actually just got done recording our first full-length album, so that's kind of the biggest, I think, milestone that we just hit. What else have we done, Daniel?
Just been playing a lot of shows. Done some Continental Club residencies here in Austin, and we'll continue to do that for a while. We actually are planning on recording the next set of songs for whatever the next album will be soon. So never stop.
So the creative juices are flowing.
We're trying to keep them going. Yeah.
What do you do to keep that? Now, since we're in the topic of writing, what do you do to kind of nurture that part of you?
Schedule it.
Yeah.
Because once we get together, it happens. So it's one of those things. If you make the time for it, and fortunately, our whole band has. We've really. Everybody's put in some sacrifices, and we spend a lot of time trying to make that happen. So
I definitely agree with that. I think getting together and trying to make something out of nothing. The writing process is my favorite thing. For me, is putting in the time outside of when the inspiration hits, putting in the work, just trying to write when you don't really want to write. So when the lightning strikes, you've kind of flexed your muscles and done the right things to harness that energy.
Yeah, and that would be the discipline of it, right? There's a lot to be said for the duality of a creative, right?
Yeah.
We love those creatives because they're those creatives, but that center of discipline, I think, it's extra cool when you have it. You know what I mean?
It is. I'm one of the least disciplined people I know, but I think in this area of my life, I try to do it.
I think I'm right next to you. We might tie for that, but with this band, it's so exciting that it makes us want to be better about it. So
you
it's
guys,
great.
I would say, I've had my eye on you for a long time. That's clear, but the vibe that you have together is so unique and so special. Really looks like you love each other so much, and I know that you do. Yeah. The other really cool thing that I think pushes that is watching you play live is just really, it's up there for me. You're one of those bands where it's you've got to go see them play live. Because it's an intangible, I can't even explain it. You just have to go feel it, right?
Thanks.
Yeah. I think the live show, we do our best to capture what we do on record, but I think inevitably when you get on stage, there's a chemistry that happens that it's kind of hard to replicate in the studio.
Yeah, and you're all like your own little character.
Yeah.
I mean, and I mean that in such a like respectful way.
Definitely.
But you all have your kind of role, and it's so fun to watch. I was gonna say that I think it does translate recorded, which is rare,
Awesome.
because I can hear it, and I think one of the things that helps that for me is like when the main person is singing, but then the rest of the band, I can hear them fill in, and then you guys sing along and harmonize. That makes me feel like there's a group of you together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's part of the thing that I think helps the translation from the live.
No, I completely agree. I think we're all characters, and each part of the character builds like a Power Rangers super character.
It does, yeah.
Or a cartoon, maybe.
But the cool thing is those characters are the same off the stage as they are on the stage, and that's special because we could put on an act, but well, we know a lot of. I mean, it's kind of just a common thing. Like bands don't like each other after being together so long, and making each other angry, and it's like we. I know we're new, but we're trying to avoid all that and just keeping it positive.
Yeah, I gotta say, I've been in bands before where you pull up to van call and you just kind of have this dark cloud over you and you're a little stressed out. But every time we show up to wherever van call is, I'm genuinely excited to hang out with my best friends, and that's a great feeling.
Yeah.
It's a great feeling.
Absolutely.
I love that. Let's also talk to Dr. Aaron Rochlen, who is so cool what you're doing.
Appreciate it.
And the reason why you're on this stage is so that we can do a little bit of a deeper dive, because that's what you've started. So first, you're a professor at UT, psychologist, and you use music and lyrics, more specifically, to teach your classes, which, how cool would that be to be in a class with him?
That's a great explanation right there. I can quit teaching. You got it. Well, appreciate it. And thank you again for having me on this awesome show. I was here in the last audience, and it was special. So even more special being on stage
I know.
today.
You went from the audience last time. I threw you right up on stage.
And I'll go back to the audience happily for the next show.
So all of you in the audience better watch out on you.
Yeah.
How did that get started? What possessed you to do
Well,
that?
like you said, the short story is I've also been a big music person my whole life and always kind of dived into the lyrics, and it's helped me through good times and tough times, and I've always been interested in like what songs mean for the artist, but also projecting my own, life into the songs that I hear, and I've loved that. And then as I become a professional, I just found that music and actually film are excellent ways of connecting with students, and even in therapy. Like I've played songs before in group therapy settings and have people share what's going on for them during the songs. And then it kind of started off as an idea, but then like most things, the response to it was very positive. And in particular in a counseling theories course I teach at UT, I just found that it was very powerful ways of kind of teaching students about theories and about, theoretical approaches to therapy, and certain concepts really made their way into their understanding better through music than through my words, for sure. And kind of started from there. There's also a band, some of you, I know folks know the band Dawes. These guys over here, yeah. So this is kind of I'll make it short, but it's a pretty cool story. There's a guy named Taylor Goldsmith of Dawes, and I'm a big fan of him and their music, and I use his songs in particular in a number of different classes, and he somehow found out that I was doing that, and a year and a half passed, and I got an email from Taylor Goldsmith saying, Dr. Aaron Rochlen, I learned that you were doing this in your class. And I was like, oh my God. And ended up meeting him, and he was very honored by that. I was, of course, blown away too. And ended up having a concert in our backyard with Taylor Goldsmith before he was playing later that night at Stubbs. And it was just, a few of the people here in the audience were at that show, and it was really pretty unbelievable. And at the same time, I was like, wow, I was not a disaster there myself. Like, did a good job with the musicians in the audience. And so in my mind, somewhere, I was like, I'd like to do more of that. And then in that process, I kind of almost strangely, coincidentally got connected to some great artists and bands, especially these guys, the West Texas Exiles. And that's also, thank you. That's also been an awesome story, just getting to know these folks as really as friends. Fans turn friends, turn family almost. And of course, once you have that rapport established with guys and amazing songwriters and artists like this, it makes this process easier because we each begin to trust each other. And so then I ended up starting my own show called Under the Rock. And that guy right there, Eric Harrison, has been key, also in Exile, has been key to the success of that. And by the time this comes out, we will have had our third show with the West Texas Exiles, Pat Byrne, and Madam Radar, who just sold out Antone's yesterday. Or I mean, 8 days ago. And it's just been awesome. They've all been sold out, and we do a lot of what we're gonna do today. We're gonna see 2 samples of it today, what we do on the show. So sorry that was a little long, but that's what I've been doing.
No, I love it. You've been busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, is everybody ready for some music and psychology? All right, let's go. So we're gonna hear 2 amazing songs and then talk a little bit after. And the first song was supposed to be What Happened, but when I walked in here today, I heard that is no longer happened. I'm not sure what happened to What Happened, but the good news is we have an amazing one coming up, new, and I happen to love it as well, Cards.
Stood on a perch, fell down a steep hill, walked through that door without looking through the peephole. But the only light that crossed my eyes came shining from the back door exit sign. One on the high road, one out the door, one path to glory. Oh man, these feet are sore. The bells were ringing from up on high, a voice calling out, time to decide. It said, change, oh, stop apologizing, 'cause there's no living in between. How great the day that I finally came to see that changing's not in the cards for me. I've seen wicked ways of holy men before. Their path was narrow, their pockets full. Just as St. Peter at heaven's gate. You ain't getting in, boy, it's too late. It's time to change, oh, stop apologizing, 'cause there's no living in between. How great the day that I finally came to see Oh, change or stop apologizing, 'cause there's no living in between. How great the day that I finally came to see that changing is just not in the, oh no, changing just not in the cards for me.
Daniel Davis, everyone, from Amarillo.
Thanks.
Oh,
You know, I'm giving him a pat on the back because I think we've played that song a total of 2.5 times in the history outside of the studio. So good job, buddy. Way
Oh,
to go.
thanks.
yeah.
I remembered most of the words almost.
Yeah, that was amazing, so special. Oh my God, and I love that song. It's also throwing me a little curveball, but a welcome curveball, because I didn't know they were playing it. But we're gonna play off the cusp and do a little bit of what we do on Under the Rock. So I'm gonna start with Daniel and ask him just to tell me a little bit about where that song came from. And then I'm gonna share some reactions and questions and what I found most intriguing about it.
Yeah. There's obviously some religious overtones. I wouldn't even say undertones in that song, but I grew up in church, and there at some point in my life, you know, in my 20s, I just started noticing this pattern of not conforming, I suppose, you know, in a lot of ways, and essentially just came to the conclusion that, like, I had spent too much time apologizing and saying sorry for things that I wasn't necessarily sorry for, and that it was a very freeing moment, and it was literally that exact phrase that stayed in the song, which is the chorus, and yeah, it's a good way to be, I suppose, you know. Well, unless it's unhealthy.
Thank you for sharing that. So it's a perfect kind of segue into what I was going to share. So this is a great example of why I love the West Texas Exiles, because we have here a little bit of both. Like, I hear that song and I am so curious about this man right here, growing up in that church in Amarillo and what that was like. And the other song we were going to do kind of hints of he was the fourth kid in the family and all these expectations for ways of how he was going to be. So I'm curious about him and more of what he said. On the other hand, we all, I expect, relate to that song and feeling of change, both in ourselves and in our partners and in our families, of kind of expectations of, hey, if I could only change here, or if she or he could change just a little bit, we'd all be happier. And then there's that one moment we have where we're like, you know what, ain't gonna happen, and I'm not gonna apologize anymore. And if we come to accept that in ourselves and in our relationships, we can all be a lot happier. So I think there's like a positive therapeutic message in that song, but it also just makes us think about those pressures we put on our lives to be different. And I like that stop apologizing. It's just so awesome. So some of my own reactions. Any reactions to those comments?
I mean, I think that's spot on. And the song we were gonna play, it's similar message in some ways, you know. It's just like expectations of who you are and your character, and you're the only person you can change, and you're the only person who really knows yourself, and so it's full circle there.
Yeah, man, I want to chime in here and talk about that first verse. It's clever, man, because it's what are the lyrics?
For some reason in my head, well, probably because I was indoctrinated with it, was you know, here's the church. I can't remember the hand signals without making probably an inappropriate sign, but yeah, here's the church, here's the steeple, open the doors and see all the people. So that's kind of where it began, but I took some liberties, and I said none of those words, but they sound like those words if you think about it.
Yeah, the first time I heard that, that's kind of the imagery that evoked, but the fact that you're not saying that, and still kind of getting at that in a gospel-sounding song.
Yeah.
I love it, man. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, there's one more thing I wanted to share that in the main part of the song, like change is not in the cards. I mean, that's a great expression. I use it all the time. It's like, it's not in the cards. And I even did a little research on that. Like, what's that mean? It's a little bit of a gambling reference. You're playing poker. At some point, you're not going to win if the cards don't have the winning hand, right? But then there's also a tarot card you reference to it, right? It's like your cards aren't telling you you're going to go where other people or you think you're going to go. So I love that expression. It's also kind of a timeless expression, not the cards. Like, I remember saying that as a kid and growing up, and I still occasionally hear it. So when I heard it in that song, I'm like, and I already got the visuals. These guys at Madison Square Garden, and they play that song, and everybody's just throwing cards everywhere. Want to book that show?
I've also imagined Zoltar from the movie Big.
We talked about that.
I feel like he's got some good advice.
Yeah, so Daniel's going to be Zoltar for Halloween and just be handing out those cards.
God, I feel like we're hijacking your 100th show. What do you have to say about all this?
I love this. I feel like we should all bring, from now on, we should bring a deck of cards anytime you go see the Exiles play. Yeah.
Just throw them at us.
I have never heard that song, so I don't have I prepared for the other one. But I feel like it kind of, the way that you sing it too is like, I think something we can all identify with is just that sort of surrender when you get to an age old enough where you just go like, this is it. I've been to enough therapy. I've done enough work. I've gone through enough life. Like this is it. And maybe there's some tweaks here and there depending on how you intersect with another person or whatever. But I love the simplicity. Oftentimes, simple songs are not actually simple. And so you do such a beautiful job at creating a very simple message, but in such a visual way.
Thank you.
So
it only takes about 7 years.
I know. I've hung out with enough songwriters to know, like, that's not easy. So yeah, and you have the nice little earworm in there too. So like, I'll be humming that on the way home.
Thank you.
So good job.
We'll send you a track
Yes,
exclusively.
yes. I would love that. Awesome. More. I want more music.
All right, yeah.
I guess that means I'm up next.
Yeah.
I hope.
So our second song, the first single off the next album, you can tell I've been to a few West Texas Exiles shows. We're gonna hear a little Wind's Gonna Blow.
Yeah, this is the first single off of our the new album. We're thinking it's gonna be the first track on there, and I'm not gonna say much. I'm just gonna play it, and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, you know I love you, baby, but the wind's gonna blow, the wind's gonna blow, the wind's gonna blow. You know I love you, baby, but the wind's gonna blow. When it does, that's the time I gotta go. I was rolling into Illinois. The snow was coming down. When the world's asleep, the silence gets so loud. It's when thoughts for you come blowing through the February wind. I hope you wait for me in April once the springtime comes again. It's the yellow lines, the mile markers, cities on repeat. All this gray and white just numbs the scenery. And I feel so down and out, but I'm gonna get back up and in. And if this highway gives me up, I'm never leaving you again. Well, you know I love you, baby, but the wind's gonna blow, the wind's gonna blow, the wind's gonna blow. You know I love you, baby, but the wind's gonna blow. When it does, that's the time I gotta go. the telephone is sitting next to me. Through these empty hotel walls they used to ring. And these beds I sleep alone, this goddamn hotel ain't a home. And those hazel eyes can't sparkle when you're crying on the phone. And the heaters are always broken. I never been so cold. Well, you know I love you, baby, but the wind's gonna blow, the wind's gonna blow, the wind's gonna blow. You know I love you, baby, but the wind's gonna blow. When it does, it's the time I gotta go. Can I come back home? Hey girl, I'm sick of being gone. Can I come back home? Well, you know I love you, baby, but the wind's gonna blow, the wind's gonna blow, the wind's gonna blow. You know I love you, baby, but the wind's gonna blow. When it does, that's the time I gotta go. Well, you know I love you, baby, but the wind's gonna blow, the wind's gonna blow, the wind's gonna blow. You know I love you, baby, but the wind's gonna blow. When it does, that's the time I gotta go.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's awesome. Marco Gutierrez, everybody. What a song. And good luck to our audience of tomorrow on your drives to work, not be going, but the wind's gotta blow. Yeah, that was catchy, and that's a hit right there.
Thank you.
Thank you. So exciting. Marco, why don't you tell us just a little bit about the influence of that song, and then I'll try and add my 2 cents.
Well, I think musically, I honestly, I started growing up listening to 90s country. Believe it or not. It was 90s punk and it was 90s country. And I think some of that, the structure of that song came from some 90s country. And then as I got a little older, I kind of got into the more, quote unquote alt country.
Yeah.
And Americana, bands like Whiskey Town, the Black Crows, and I got to throw in Bright Eyes for good measure. But musically, I think that's where that all came from. Lyrically, it gets real windy in El Paso, man.
That's awesome. Okay, so Marco and I have talked a little bit about this song, and I know one of the themes in it, he mentioned when we were rapping, he's like, it's like the duality of man thing. It's that feeling of being on the road and yet also wanting to go home as well, and that push and pull of wanting to be somewhere but wanting to be away from it at the same time. And I was like, what? Did he just say duality of man? Which I'll share a little bit more after Marco talks more about that, but it's a pretty sophisticated psychological concept first introduced by Carl Jung, who was Sigmund Freud's at first student and then colleague, broke away, collective unconscious. There's still Jungian institutes all over the world, actually. But I'll turn it on to this guy to maybe share a little bit more about what he meant by that, and then I'll try and take that part to another level.
Well, first of all, Aaron, I got to tell you, a lot of times I talk and I don't know what I'm saying. So.
Well, I call him Dr. Marco, honestly.
Well, he got that one right, for sure. So what do you mean by that?
I've been doing this for 2024. I've been doing it for about 14 years, close to 15 years. I've been on the road since I was about 19 years old, and on the road heavily. I think at the peak of my days being away from home, it was close to 200 days out of the year, and it doesn't really matter how much, at least in my case, it didn't matter how much I loved the road or I loved being home. They're not mutually exclusive, man. You can love both, and when you're home, I miss the road. I miss getting out on the highway and playing all the stages I love to play, and then when I'm on the road, I miss my girl. You know, I miss our dog. I miss the simplicity of you know, not having to wake up and jump in a van. And I love them both equally. And I think that's kind of where that idea came from.
Yeah. Well, A+ response right there, everybody.
I think I always joke, Aaron. Every time we talk, you make me consider actually finishing up my college education.
Well, he's welcome back, but I suggest keep playing music. The only thing I'll add to that, I mean, that was actually an excellent overview of what Jungian analysts talk about with the duality man. The only further example I'd take it, Jung was very into the fact that, like, we have both, you know, love and hate is equal. We have, you know, we talk about extroversion and introversion. I'm an extroverted person. Well, you're also an introverted person. You just have a preference to being in the world as an extroverted person, but we all have to be introverted. Even the example I like to give is, Kat, are you right-handed or left-handed?
I'm both, actually.
Oh, okay, well, I need somebody to give me a better response. Anna, are you right-handed or left-handed? Okay, so, but if your life was dependent on it, I bet you can write with your left hand. It might not be beautiful, but that's a good example of, in our ways of being in life, we have equal parts of both. And to live a healthy life, we need to acknowledge that. We need to acknowledge that at times we have feelings of, you know, love and compassion, and other times where we just want to, like, butt heads with a person, that there is that hostile side of ourselves, even in our closest relationships. It's not easy to acknowledge, but that's kind of a part of our shadow. There's the persona. You guys were talking about persona really earlier in terms of your persona as band versus what you're off the stage, you know, and when you hide everything in your shadow is really when the problems emerge. So the duality man is kind of about that. Like, we are both, we can hold opposite views, and that's a healthy thing, not a problematic thing.
Yeah, I want to add to what you said. I think nowadays with the prevalence of social media and everyone kind of backing into their corner, I think a lot of people feel like that's not okay. You can only be one or the other, and I kind of feel like that's detrimental. Yeah. You know, I think it's important to acknowledge both sides. And I also got to say, that was such a flex. Left-handed and right-handed. Way to go.
It's the truth. I'm both feet too in soccer. Yeah, I'm like, it's very confusing.
That threw off the whole intervention.
I'm sorry. I want to add something too. I've heard that song a few times, and I want to say I've heard you play it live too, which is a totally different energy. Yeah. But sitting next to you here, I felt the sadness of it. Yeah. And I've never heard that song that way. Yeah. Like, oh, he's not just some musician that loves to be on the road. Like, he actually wants to be home. It just was so cool to sit and watch you play it and go like, wow, I feel that sadness and that desire so strongly in the lyrics this time. Yeah. That's what I love about this song, because you can kind of.
I think a lot of music is production. So Eric Harrison, he's a bass player, and he's an incredible producer. He's in the band. But when you produce a song, it can be you can take a choice. You can make it sound upbeat, and you can make it sad. And a lot of artists recently have kind of been going back and re-recording certain songs in a new light that makes you kind of reassess the lyrics, and I love it so much.
And I love a sad song.
So sad songs are the best.
Oh, they're the best.
You know, I gotta say, the best happy songs, the happy songs that I like most acknowledge the sadness.
Yes,
you know?
I love a sad song in a happy,
that's what they
like in
do.
a major, and like play it up, but it's so like breaking your heart. I
Yes,
love that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like another form of masking, I believe, you know,
Yeah.
the sadness, but
Well, yeah,
I love it too.
But I love it
And we
because,
do it
like,
all the time.
yeah, and I think our brains get it. You know, our brains are doing so much work, aren't they? When we're listening to music,
Absolutely.
like they're looking for repetition and resolve, and they need things, right? When
Yeah.
we're listening to music.
That's why we learn the ABCs to a song,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
basic as it gets, right there.
So, yeah.
And I'll just add that you kind of nailed it, Kat, but one reason why I immediately gravitated to this band is they have these, like, especially live songs that are just a blast.
Yeah.
But then you're listening, and the one we're going to hear next is a good example of that too. You're listening and you're like, oh wow, there's some serious themes in these songs and stories and points of sadness and points of reflection. And this hotel room's not a home, you know, and the air conditioner never works. And like, whoa, because they have a very fun, fast way of playing this song. If you haven't heard, it's like a blast. But the lyrics don't change. And I love a band where you can just like have a blast and dance your ass off, and at home you can just lay in bed and put on the headphones and
cry.
like cry. and that's happened with these guys. And that's just awesome. That's kind of a special gift, both for them to have as artists, but also for people listening to them, especially in an awesome space like this.
Yeah. I think we should toss it to the audience and give the audience an opportunity to do a little question asking if they have any. So we'll do our audience Q&A portion.
West Texas Exiles, you guys are a band with abundant talent, and in fact, you have multiple excellent lead singers. So I want to hear, what have you learned from your previous experience that you can make this a deliberate, creative, thriving experience and not an unhealthy competition?
That's a great question.
That is. You want to start?
Yeah.
I'll follow up.
I mean, I think we would all have our own answers that would end up in the same place, but speaking for myself, like I've been in bands that I just wanted people singing every song with me, singing harmonies, and it's like I just had this dream and it never happened, you know, and there was always so much ego involved, which is very typical in this industry, and I think that we have really tried to make that not the culture of our band, and it's all collaboration, and collaboration is compromise, but we have become such a close-knit family that we can work through those things, and it's so far so good.
Yeah. I think to add to that, you know, I've been in situations to where it wasn't the most healthy relationship with other band members on the road. At times it was great, at times it wasn't. I've also seen other bands who have had like the most incredible musicians that they could be playing on the biggest stages of the world in these bands, and they're not in those bands long because the camaraderie isn't there. I've learned almost over musical proficiency that camaraderie is more important. If you can sit with 5 dudes in a Toyota Sienna for 18 hours and get to the hotel and still be laughing, that is so much more important than having someone who can rip a guitar solo. So that, to me, it's that. And also, it doesn't hurt that Daniel and Colin are incredible songwriters, and Eric and Trinidad are the best rhythm section a band could ask for. And I think when the friendship is really there, so much is going to grow from that.
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents in.
Great question.
Yeah.
Great question.
Question mark.
But the wind is going to blow. Marco, you said that you've been on the road for over a decade now.
Yeah.
If you go back to your high school self before you started this, what advice would you give yourself and to others thinking about entering the music scene?
Okay. I have 2 answers. On my worst day. When I grew up, I wanted to be a fighter pilot. That was my dream. I love airplanes. Every time I hear something that's not a commercial aircraft fly over, I run outside to see what it is.
And he knows what it is.
On the rough days, I would say don't. I would say don't do it. I'm so lucky that the rough days are few and far between these days. I would tell myself just to keep going, keep writing, keep putting in the work like I was talking about earlier. Even when you're not feeling it, sit down at the table and write. Make the calls, make the connections, and even if you're not gonna make it to the top of the world, you're gonna be happy and you're gonna love what you're doing. And yeah, I would tell them just keep doing it.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you so much.
I love that.
All right, so my question is, when y'all are out touring, doing like live events and all that stuff, when y'all play, like, y'all start a song, what is y'all's like favorite reaction out of the crowd? Like that first like energy you get from the crowd. What is y'all's favorite thing to see?
I mean, step one is that anybody's there. But honestly, I speaking for myself, I just love doing it. And so, I mean, if two people are into it, that's we did our job. If somebody dances, well, oh yeah, two people, that takes two people too. But yeah, I think if we just connect with people and make them feel better for a minute, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, there's a song by this guy Dave Dondero, and it's probably the best depiction of life on the road in a song, in my opinion. And he says one of the lines in the song is, "Drove 16 hours to play to the sound guy, and the bartender's tapping on the Mega Touch machine," and I have been there. So if there's two people there, I'm happy. I'm gonna go in a different direction, and sometimes when we get to open for bands or play with other bands and you kind of see them in the audience and we're playing and they kind of start to look at us and you can see it in their eyes. Like they're reevaluating their set list. They're like, all right, how do we top this?
That's
the reaction I want.
That's awesome. Thank y'all.
I always say, like, never judge the quality of a performance by how many people are in the room.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
Judge it by the reaction of those 2 to 10 people in the room. And I noticed that about y'all. There weren't a ton of people there at 12 o'clock on Wednesdays when y'all started playing at Continental Club.
Yeah.
And you still get an A+ performance and energy. And that's what you want to, and it's the same thing about like a lecture or some, presentation that you might receive. You can be in the crowd and have a bad experience and the crowd be packed, or you can have a special experience with very few people in the crowd. And artists that really appreciate the people that are there and aren't mad at those who aren't deserve your next ticket to their next show. So I noticed that right away with these folks. And they'll also kind of acknowledge you in the crowd. They're always, when I saw the first show with you all, which I think was about a year ago, at Antone's with Braden and Ransom brothers, Braden Barnhill and the Ransom brothers, y'all were like in the crowd having a blast, and then before the show, after the show, hanging out, so there's no kind of, you're on the stage, but when you're off, you appreciate a good performance like anyone else. And that's one thing that makes these guys special.
Yeah. If I can say, I do think, that, like I said, we're the same on the stage and off the stage, and we're just trying to break that culture of like we're all against each other as different bands, and it's cool to just, kind of share that love, spread it around, and, be friends with people. It can happen.
It's very attracting, you know what I mean? Like I think everyone in this room can feel that from you guys, but you are lovable and you attract that. You're also badass and rock, whatever, like rock starry kind of when you go see you play and the Saxon pub is packed and it's like, wow. But then it's like, so there's that duality again. And you can be all of that. That's what's so cool, is that you should be all of that.
Yeah, we'll rock and roll on stage, and then you can come have a shot with us after the show, and we'll just be the same guys.
Exactly. I love it. Do we have another question? Do we want to do one more?
Yeah, hi. You spoke about collaboration and trust and time in a van. So my question to you is, who in the band is the best driver and who in the band has no business whatsoever behind the wheel?
Oh, that's a depending on the day question, man. You know, Daniel is a great driver. He gets us there on time. He knows how to get us there on time.
Yeah, you know, it's we'll answer the first part. It is my Toyota Sienna, so we will say that.
Well, it's your Toyota Sienna. So when I drive, I'm 10-2. I'm like cruise control 1 below the speed limit. Because I'm like...
Are you firstborn?
I'm an only child, raised by an only mother, so I was taught
You're
to be
a good
very
boy.
careful.
I love that.
I'm the baby of the family, so I don't do that. But I get us there. I got us home last night somehow from, where were we? Denton. Yes. So, yeah.
I think we are all... And I'm not just saying this. I think we all kind of understand the responsibility of taking this as a professional endeavor, and we don't take any unnecessary risks.
But once we get that Mercedes Sprinter, if anybody has one, we'll figure out who is the best and the worst.
Hint. Whoever has the Mercedes Sprinter, give us a call.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
I love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good questions, everybody. Thank you guys so much for coming on. That does it for this episode. I'm so happy that you all joined and that I know a little bit more about what's going on in those heads and hearts.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us, and congratulations on the 100th episode. It's an honor to be here.
Episode. Let's go. Thanks for having us. This has been great. It's so great.
It was an amazing experience. Thank you for having me on. It's a beautiful show. And to be on it with these guys makes it all the more special. So thank you,
special. Kat. It's an honor. Thank you guys for being in the audience. You officially win. You are the best audience ever. That does it for this episode. We will see you guys next time.